Good morning, everyone. Such a fun and exciting topic today. Legislative changes. All right. I was recently at Benefits Pro conference in Colorado, which is for agents who want to do group business. So I do highly recommend, if you are thinking of doing group business, join Benefits Pro. The conference was 2.5 days and I learned so much. I learned a lot that I don't know, but they gave me the cutest thing I think I've ever gotten in my life from one of the vendors. It's a Tic Tac box. See how tiny this is? It's actually Tic Tacs. I think there's like 7 in here. It's so tiny. So for those of you who like tiny things, I can't even eat these because this whole thing is so adorable. I'm like, it's just gonna sit here because it's Tic Tacs. And now I want to, they're called Tic Tac Travel. So now I want to go look them up and see if I can buy my own because these are adorable. So I've got some exciting news from being at that convention. I've got some more guest speakers coming on. One is from HAFA. I speak with Ronelle. She's got some very interesting stuff. She's going to come in and talk about basically the unethical agents and what's happening. So how to report them, what's happening when they are being reported, some of what's happening behind the scenes that we don't know. As a reminder, they're slow. CMS is just slow. It's just a ginormous cruise ship trying to turn. They don't turn quickly. So stuff is happening, but we have to be a little patient. So she's going to be coming on, I think, in June. Her and I are still coordinating. I've got next week, we're going to talk about best practices for finding prospects and clients. I know that's something people are always looking for. May 16th, I'm just calling it a potluck of questions. So I keep getting individual questions and they're not really something I can put in one giant category. So if you've got that question, bring them, live session, feel free to bring them on. If you don't want to raise your hand and speak on the webinar, you can email me them. So examples like, is infusions, where is that covered? I saw one recently talking about all the new diabetic things, those pods that are temporary, where does that fit under? So stuff like that. One person, how to get a virtual assistant. So like I said, a bunch of hodgepodge of things. May 23rd will be behind the scenes. So an FMO's perspective. So I'm excited to have a president of he calls himself a boutique FMO. So they're not a big giant one. They're not owned by Wall Street. They're not owned by investors. So they have the freedom to pivot and do what they want. But it's just really interesting to see behind the curtain, right? I mean, we all know who FMOs are. We all have to work with them. Some carriers you can't go direct. So if you've got Molina in your area, you cannot directly contract with Molina. They just don't let you. You have to go through an FMO. So he's going to talk about behind the scenes. If you would like to know a question, if you've ever wanted to ask an FMO, bring it. And then May 30th, I'm really excited. It's behind the scenes with the insurance carrier. So I have the good fortune, Wisconsin's very different. We have, I think, 6 nonprofit insurance companies that are really good. They're small. They are very much customer centric. And I have learned so much of behind the scenes from them. So I asked them to come help you guys understand, what do they get from CMS? What does healthcare.gov send to them? What can they send back? How much control do they have? The secret is they don't have much. Why can't I cancel? Why can't I update somebody's application? Why does, so they're going to give you a behind the scenes for a carrier. Now, you can ask them any question you want, but don't think about carrier specific. Okay. You can't say, why did Anthem Blue Cross decide to pick this copay? They don't know. They're only going to know their lane. But you can certainly ask, how do the carriers come up with these copays? How do they figure out what is a bronze plan, a silver plan, a gold plan? Where did the platinum plans go, right? So you can ask the general questions. And I learned, they're great. I learned so much about why it works the way it does. And I'm just a firm believer, if you understand why it works and how it works, then you can adjust within that. So bring your questions for those 2 people in May. I'm really excited. I've been trying to get the carrier for a long time. So, all right. So today's topic is so much fun. Recent legislative changes. There's a pattern. You can kind of see what's going to happen if you look in the past. I think you've all probably heard the phrase, learn from the past. If we ignore the past, we'll never learn, right? So learn your past because it just repeats itself. What's happening with the ACA right now has already happened. When Medicare first started, people didn't want it. Insurance agents thought it was junk. People were mad. Why are you taking money off my paycheck? You couldn't take Social Security away today for nothing. In fact, it's political suicide to even say Social Security in your, speeches. Medicare, we've seen Medicare go through the same thing. All right. Now they brought Medicare on. Oh, what are you doing? Right. Why are you taking money out of my paycheck? How dare you make me get Medicare? And now again, you couldn't take Medicare away if you tried. It's political suicide to even talk about it. So, and we know that they were created in the 40s and 50s, and they're not sustainable to be what they were created for. They need to be adjusted. So guess what? ACA, how dare you make us do this thing? It's here to stay. Okay. They've had 10 years. It's not going anywhere. People, I know there's happens every year that there's an election. Is it going away? So it's here to stay. Now, as Brian says, is it unsustainable though? I don't know. Medicare should have, I remember in the 80s when I was in high school, I'm talking about Social Security not being able to be sustainable in Medicare. Unfortunately, our country tends to be reactive instead of proactive. So it might become to the point of being, it's going down tomorrow, let's fix it. And, we throw lots of money at it, as we saw some of the bank crashes and the car crashes. So whether it's sustainable or not, I don't know, but it's not going anywhere. Should it be edited, adjusted? Probably, and some of the regulations, they're trying to be a little bit slow. You should be thankful for this because you know what's going to happen. We're going to be Medicare. Peter, you're upside down. Your camera's upside down. That's kind of fun. So they're not trying to do so much heavy stuff right now, partly because they're dealing with Medicare. So those of you in the Medicare space, I get it. There's a ton of stuff happening to you, and I'm so glad I'm not in the Medicare space. In fact, I kind of feel like you can't be an expert in Medicare and ACA. So I have a partner. He's an expert in Medicare. He's hired experts for Medicare. They have their own thing going on. We're just a tiny portion of what CMS has to deal with. So they're trying to give guidelines without it being unburdened, too much of a burden. Now, remember, these are people who don't understand how the system works, creating the rules. So I'm saying trying not to be burdensome, but they don't always talk to agents and say, hey, we're thinking of doing this. How do you think that'll work? Instead, they talk to consumers and they hear the consumer's complaint and they make rules and regulations based on consumer complaints and not actually talking to agents. So, which is why NABIB and NAFIF, all those companies are kind of important because they're supposed to be the voice of agents. So just remember, it's not perfect. Nothing was created was perfect. And hopefully it'll get edited. Agents have been complaining about the unethical agents for 2 years now. It took an article to finally hit national news about how it's affecting the consumers before they really started listening. So just be patient, understand the behind, and it just is what it is. So we can all bitch and moan and complain about the way it is, or figure out how to work within the system and then join those companies that have a voice. So that's my little soapbox. All right, so today I'm going to talk about 2 of the regulations. One is the newest one that just came out. I'm going to do a screen share. And fortunately, it's not sure I'm in the right one. This one. All right. I got a lot of different screens to share with you today. So this is the newest one that came out. It is the temporary special enrollment period, SEP, for consumers losing Medicaid or the CHIP program coverage due to the unwinding of the Medicaid continuous enrollment condition operations for Plan 2024. They love their words. So this is actually only a 2-page document, but the breakdown of it, and I will send you the link when I send out the renewal or the page for YouTube. I'll put this on here. The breakdown of this is they've opened the SEP, and I'm going to come right down here. The SEP end date will be expanded to November 30th of 2024, which means we will not see any requests for proof of coverage ending this year. Now, I know there are agents on this call that have never had to submit documentation for proof of coverage ending. You came in COVID. You can expect that in 2025, it will be back. The reason it will be back, or well, I shouldn't say why it's back. I don't know. The reason it is not existing. That's why it doesn't matter. If you say somebody lost coverage tomorrow, they go, welcome aboard. If you say they lost coverage, a month ago, they're like, welcome aboard. They don't ask because the way it does work is a pain. So, but it's onesie twosie. So somebody comes into your office in March and says, I just lost my job and I need coverage for April 1st. Okay. So, I need proof. And they go, all right. And they give you a document. You go into the marketplace, you put their information in, you sign them up, and then it sits on pause. It still sits, the application sits at healthcare.gov. You upload that piece of paper, a third-party vendor that you and I and the consumer have no access to, and neither does healthcare.gov, gets that piece of paper, they look at it, and they go, yep, you did. They push a button, now the application moves to the insurance company. So the insurance company doesn't know this consumer exists at all until they've looked at this piece of paper. Well, when it was up, it wasn't that many throughout the year because you had open enrollment, little insane. At the end of open enrollment, it shuts off. You get onesies and twosies, the retirees. Enter COVID. Everybody's life changes. Everything goes upside down. A bunch of people lose their job, instantly get on the marketplace. A bunch of people go on the Medicaid programs throughout the whole country. So as of May of last year, if you remember, the Medicaid rollback started. So every state in the union had 1 year to implement kicking the people off of Medicaid who don't qualify. So it didn't matter if they got, an amazing job and made $500,000. Medicaid was not allowed to kick them off. So starting May 1st, they started the process again. Every state was allowed to do it however they wanted to. Some states, my state, went, all right, we have, I'm just throwing numbers out. I used to have it memorized, but we have 100,000 people that we think should not be on. All right, we have 1 year to get rid of them. So we're going to take 100,000 people and divide that by 12 months. So we're kicking off 8,333 people a month on average. So they were sending out those letters to everybody saying, send us proof that you are still low income. They've just kind of started the assessments again, expecting around 8,333 people a month would go, I don't qualify. Some states, such as Texas, got rid of everybody in 2 months, which is insane. And they had millions. I mean, I can't remember, something like 26 million people were kicked off Medicaid, right? So yeah, you're nodding your head. It was insane. And I mean, I was reading letters about somebody was in treatment on, in middle of May, and they got their letter at the end of May saying they lost coverage May 1st from Medicaid. I mean, and they didn't, it was crazy. So every state is doing it their own way. And then there's some states that are allowing people to say it's a hardship. To lose Medicaid right now, there's a hardship, whatever that hardship is, whether not necessarily income, like it's hard for me to find a carrier who will cover my doctor and I'm in the middle of treatment. And so there's some states that are kind of doing a little bit of I don't know, I would call it a loose extension. Okay, so now go back to what I said about how proving loss of coverage works. Can you imagine them having to find a third-party vendor to handle literally 3 to 4 million people being kicked off and those documents? The backlog would be insane. People would be trying to get coverage for May, and it would be July before it'd be approved. Then it would be backdate to June, and then you'd be trying to get backdate payment. It would have been a just disaster. So good, bad, or otherwise, they just don't have that button on. And I kind of agree, because I think they thought the few people in the grand scheme of things, remember, they're thinking nationwide, the grand scheme of the people who maybe are going to get coverage that don't really qualify isn't worth the complete disaster it would be if we were trying to get paperwork for millions of people who legitimately need to get on. So be prepared for next year, though. that button to be turned back on. Start even now, getting into the practice when somebody says, I lost coverage, go, okay, can you bring me documentation? Their employers are giving it to them. They know this now. Now, they might have gotten a little bit slack because people haven't been asking for it, but they know that they need to do this now. So start getting into that practice. I hear my receptionist when they say they're losing their job or retiring, she's like, okay, just bring us proof of, your coverage ending. Just start getting in that practice, get that piece of paper, put it in your system. You're doing this to get yourself in the practice. Consumers start hearing about it, and you will have proof. Get into that habit of keeping your proof of documentation. But that's why nobody's caring. So, if you have a coverage that's ending and you need to get someone in and you don't want to say they're losing coverage to have it work, you can send them to healthcare.gov. They can call healthcare.gov and get it tomorrow, not tomorrow, but June 1st. My personal opinion is if healthcare.gov person on the phone can do it, then I can do it. So I will do it. But if you're not comfortable, that's okay. Have them call healthcare.gov and they'll do it. They'll get them on. This is kind of your last chance. After this, I suspect it will go back to the way it was. So then just start thinking that for next year. So that's the biggest one. So that's the new regulation. So if anybody's losing coverage, you don't even have to be in the 150%. That SEP is still existing. And as far as I know, it will still continue to exist into next year. But the special enrollment for losing Medicaid, they could say they lost Medicaid last year and it's going to give it to them all the way through November 30th. So they're not asking for proof of this. That button will not come back on. Any questions on that? Okay, pretty cut and dry. It was originally, I think it was supposed to end in May because the cutoff for the Medicaid rollback was supposed to end this month. So Brian, you were asking if that was an extension. It was. In theory, the Medicaid rollback is done. In theory. It's still happening. Like I said, there are some states who have done some stuff to kind of give them a little extra time. So that's why it is. But, the states that had a lot of people kicked off a lot of people, and I said this last year when I was doing these classes, I warned my staff, prepare for the six-figure income earners to complain that they're getting kicked off Medicaid. And it happened. And I would go, aren't you lucky? Because I'm a glass half full person. I can't stand when they complain. And, the people who clearly did not qualify were the ones who complained way more than the ones who were just $1,000 over. They were just happy that we could help them, happy to get them something. All right. Virginia, for the FFM, Virginia state exchanges do their own thing, but they're not dealing with millions. That's why. The FFM is dealing with millions across the country. Your state exchange, they're going to want proof of that. But they're only dealing with their own people. You're not dealing with the entire state. Brian, we won't go retro though, right? We definitely submitted a lot of Crocs, but not lately. No, it's no retro. It never is. We won't have to backdate. They're not going to have to show proof of that. That's one of the few things. They're very forward thinking. So you're not going to have documents from somebody who said they lost coverage 3 months ago. And you're like, oh crap, they don't go backwards. So Virginia, what if someone's doctor's group doesn't take their plan anymore and they want to switch? Is that a qualifying event? No, it's not. Doesn't mean you can't switch them, but that's not technically a qualifying event.
Okay, so if they looked in their zip code and there's no one available, does that count?
There is someone available. There's always a doctor available.
Okay. So if they just want to switch because they can't, their doctor now won't take it, and they don't want to go to any of the doctors she said she couldn't find one, but.
And she can find, it doesn't have to be a doctor in her zip code. It just has to be a doctor within, I can't remember what it is, something like 35, 40 miles. If her carrier does not have a doctor, we'll just say a specialist because those are easier. Let's say they need a specialist and their insurance does not have a specialist for that particular area in a 50-mile radius, then the insurance has to help them get an out-of-network doctor approved. But if
Okay.
they just like, I like my doctor and now they're no longer in the network and I want to switch, well, I'm sorry. It can happen on your job. I mean, you can have insurance that covered one doctor 1 month and then it doesn't. Your doctor switches carriers. That's, they're no longer in that network. That
Okay.
does not qualify an event. Now, if they're like, well, I'm just not going to go and then I'll do it next year. Okay. That's what that's what open enrollment is for, is to switch.
Okay. But could
But
they
that
switch to one of the PPO plans?
you could switch during open enrollment, but a PPO, it's better to pay cash. Don't switch a PPO so somebody can go out of network. Look
Okay.
at the PPO's max deductible and max out of pocket. Just pay cash. I mean, if this person wants to see their doctor twice a year, I say, fine, just call them and go on cash payment and pay cash. It will be cheaper than going to a PPO plan and then going to their PPO deductible, because you're not going to get the cash rate. You're going to get whatever rate that doctor wants to send to this out-of-network insurance company. And the out-of-network insurance companies are going to go, well, we don't have a contract, so that, whatever that bill is, we're just passing it to the person. It's better to pay cash. Now, if it's a specialist, then they get an in-network doctor to write a referral to their insurance company saying, I need to go to this doctor for these reasons. And if it's a valid reason, the insurance carrier will usually take it, and then they kind of do an individual contract with that doctor.
Okay. Thank you.
All right. I have a client who only has insurance when he's working, which is 1 month on and 1 month off. Can he opt out and get an ACA plan? That's one of those lovely gray areas. My first question would be, how big is this group? Is this a small group? Is he offered COBRA in between? I mean, that's a weird situation. What kind of company is letting him work for 1 month and get on full coverage?
Hey, it's Tanya. Yeah, he's in construction, but
Okay.
he hasn't worried about it because he hasn't had any pre-existing conditions, and now he does. So now he's worried about the lapses, and I called healthcare.gov, and they said he basically just had to keep reapplying when he didn't have insurance, which, I mean, it could be 3 months, it could be a week. That's just a weird situation. I'm not sure how many employees. I think it's a small group. But anyway.
He needs to see if he could pay for it when he's not working. Like a COBRA, if he can make a deal to pay for it, because if he's on it, let's say it is 1 month and 1 month, right? So 1 month he's applying and he's using it, and now he's done, and he goes to another carrier for 1 month and now he's using it. He's reaching multiple deductibles, and that's not
right.
best for him. He really should see if he can talk to the owner. And I've got a construction guy that's a similar situation. When I'm not working, how much is this? Because it'll probably be worth it for him to pay that. Now, smaller company, he could take the risk. I think one of the things that will build the best rapport with you and your clients is no surprises. So tell them, here's the risk. Go on the marketplace, stay on the marketplace, and here's the risk. You might have to pay the tax credit backs on those months that you were eligible for the insurance with the job. And this is roughly what it is. It's $150 a month or $300, whatever the tax credit is. And then let them decide. Because sometimes they'll go, you know what, I'll take that risk. So I can just stay with the same insurance and I don't have to go back and forth. And I know that I might have to pay the tax credit back. So just no surprises. I mean, that's really the biggest issue, is no surprises. All right, I'm going to show you. Yep.
Yeah.
Okay. Any other question? All right. I'm going to do the other regulation that still comes up. And I got to talk to some people in the fiduciary world who do very much just work with compliance and CMS and stuff that I was fortunate enough to talk to. All right, share screen. It is the attestations and consent. All right, I know this still comes up. It's still confusing. People are trying to figure it out. I was talking to them and saying, these two different companies that deal with this, saying some of the problems with this is it's not sustainable. Eventually we reach too many clients, and then we can't grow our business. if I have to talk to each person and get some of this stuff every single year, how is this sustainable? So the first one, now I got this right from CMS. This came from the summit, 2023 summit, and it is available. They're gonna have a 2024 one, but key points of consent. So here's your key points of when you need consent. Conducting a search for the consumer's application using the approved website. Helping consumers apply for financial help and enrolling in the marketplace, including checking the status of their coverage and making updates throughout the year, and calling the marketplace center on behalf of them. Well, you can call on behalf of them, but unless they're on the call to get permission, you're not going to get much. But those are the consents that you have. So the do's: obtain and document consumer consent prior to assisting with or facilitating enrollment, whether it's through Health Sherpa or direct with FFM or however you're doing it. Identify and report suspicious and potentially fraudulent marketplace activity to the agent broker email. So right there, everybody's always asking, who do I send it to? Send it to FFM and your state. So always report it to your state commissioner and to the FFM. Provide the FFM with correct information and document that eligibility application information has been reviewed and confirmed to be accurate by the consumer or their authorized representative, including ensuring consumers are reporting their most accurate income and are providing their social security numbers when required, and make timely updates to your personal contact information with your state licensing and your national producer. Don't retain access to the consumer's healthcare.gov account or associated email. Don't enter false or dummy addresses in place of consumer's email or mailing address. Don't enter an agent or broker's own special professional or company email, which we saw happening, or the mailing address of a consumer's application, and then share marketplace credentials. So you don't give somebody your login, which I don't know why you would do that. Only maintain one CMS portal. So you can really only have one, and you're supposed to only do one login at a time. No scripting or automation without CMS permission. And then it talks about protecting the PII. So this is the consent. We'll talk about attestations in a second. Those are the do's. Those are the things to do and not do. If you're doing this, then you're fine. They are giving us a very brief kind of outline of what to do. If you get consent to maintain their information, which I do, on my consent form, it says you give me consent to go in and update your application when you ask me to. So I don't have to get consent every time they're like, hey, my income went up $2,000. Can you update that? I've already got their consent, and now I have proof that they're asking me to do that. An email, a text, a voicemail, a conversation, a Zoom. Record everything. Just record everything. So in your consent form, put that that's what you're there for. That they want to give you consent to maintain that for them. If you use the really bare bones consent form from CMS, it doesn't really say that. So I added that. And if you guys are interested, I can send you out the consent form that I had created, that I did send out to people, that we put on, and we just get that. I mean, we get that consent form as soon as somebody signs up for a appointment. Now here's the funny thing. Yes, Ryan.
Oh, real quick, I just want to clarify. So if someone just wants they're wanting a quote for insurance, are you getting the form signed right ahead of time, or when they want to enroll? Like if they like the quote and they want to enroll,
Sure.
Then are you doing it? Or
so we get the consent as soon as somebody asks for an appointment with us. We get consent. Now we are doing it because we have it in the information. So where they have to put their username, password, or not username, password, I don't know what we're talking about. We have to put their email, their address, their birth dates, that information. We just have it attached to the consent. Now, we have had some people go, whoa, what am I signing up for? I just want a quote. Then I go, that's okay. I don't need consent. But if I'm going to get a quote, at minimum, I need your zip code and your ages, right? And a rough estimate of your income. And then they go, oh, I like this. Yeah, let's sign up. All right, now I need your consent.
Okay, all right, that's what I was wondering.
So, yeah.
Okay, thank you.
So legally, you don't have to get consent to do quotes. I know some people get really, and I'm like, don't push too hard, because I think that they're doing it on purpose. Because sometimes they need to see it, right? They think they're giving you all this permission to do stuff for them. And as the consumers are starting to become smarter, especially because this is how the unethical agents have done this. Somebody thinks they're getting a quote and they clicked a button that's got all this fine print that says you're giving them consent to do everything. And all they thought was they were getting a quote. So now people are really getting like, whoa, what am I signing up? They're backing away. So yeah, so Ryan, good point. Good question. Absolutely. If you just they just want a quote. Okay. I don't need your consent to give you a quote. And if you like this, and we get a lot of people thinking of retiring, so they come early, they're thinking of retiring, and we go, okay. And they're like, oh, I kind of like these numbers, so I'll be back. Yep. And we'll need consent then. Nobody has ever been upset by that. I think, again, just be upfront and honest. The other thing with this consent is, which I still think is a little funny, you only have to get it once. I don't know if you know that. Yes, Antonio? Yes, what?
Yes. That I would say that is like a gray line. Basically, I'm a sales manager. I come from insurance.
Sure.
And that was the sticky gray line. Every time you go back into the application, you want to get consent. Is how we taught it. Say the CYA always ask for the consent.
Right. It doesn't have to be the form is really kind of what I'm saying. You don't have to get that whole form, but you need consent. They're saying, hey, my income went up $10,000. Would you like me to go in there and update it? They reply back, yes. There's your consent. So yes, so you are right. Get consent, but you don't have to get that form. That's what I'm saying. Sorry, I can't touch you. We have to do this form again. You don't have to do that. But you need their consent, as in, get that permission. I mean, they're telling you I made 10,000. Now, one of the ways we get the consent is we go, would you like me to update the application so you pay more each month? Or do you want me to quote you and tell you what you might owe back at tax time? And then they specifically are telling me what they want me to do. So yes, absolutely. It's a gray line, but you still need to get permission, to show that you weren't just randomly going in there and do, which is kind of silly because I don't know if you guys have time. I don't have time to go into somebody's application. But because of the stuff that's been happening, if they come back and sue you and yell at you and, hey, I didn't tell you that, and you don't have proof, they're going to err on the side of the consumer. So that's just document. Yes, Brian, you have your hand up.
But like I was just called again, I would say 2 days ago. A gentleman told me, nope, like he was dead serious too. I actually vetted him for 40 grand. They'll send me 10 applications a day. And I said, excuse me?
Yeah.
Nope, no call, nope, no contacts, I'm like, I played along in order to hear everything and get the proposal and everything. But they are literally sending, if you have the capital, 10 applications a day that you do in your off time. He's like, when you're not doing other business, just write these.
Yeah. And that's what we're combating against, which is why I don't want people to give up. CMS is doing stuff. They're just slow.
So
we're the agents that are going to make a difference. I mean, I know, Brian, you're in Florida, and I don't think all Florida agents are bad. Call centers, there's some things with call centers, but you're working hard, and so are all of us. I mean, we are heart-centered agents. We're looking at our clients going, how can I help you? I mean, all of us, at least I think, somebody shows up in your office going, my kid can't get their prescriptions and I'm really worried about them and they're starting to cry. If you don't feel a little verklempt inside, crying like, oh man, if that was me, what would I do? Let me help you. Let me give you the terminology. I'm going to bend over backwards. We're going to stay up for hours, calling the pharmaceutical company, doing whatever. We are going to make the difference. And we do. I want you to remember, you make a difference in everybody's life. There's not too many industries that are like this. We're right up there with doctors in that regard. No, I'm not a doctor. We're not educating, but we are affecting people's everyday life more than just about any other industry. So don't lose hope. Report them. Report that guy. I mean, keep saying, hey, I got this guy who's telling me I can get no call, no leads. No call leads.
Yeah.
And that has actually said, I don't need to ask all this information.
And it's a 5-figure to a 6-figure purchase.
Yep.
But okay, so how do we not get lumped in with these scumbags? That's my concern with CMS.
Paperwork. Just you keep proving it. Be a part of the NABIB, be a part of Benefits Pro, be part of HAFA. Be a part of those groups, if for no other reason, because those groups are going after those big groups. So now you're
Okay.
on alignment. You can see what's happening. You can have some say in some of the legislation that happens. In fact, I just saw NABIB just sent out a big thing asking for volunteers to help with this, to be a part of the boards, to be a part of the legislative board committee, to be a part. I mean, they've got a whole bunch. If you click on it, they're looking for volunteers. So be a part of that. If you can be, I mean, we are in some ways in the perfect position to be, because when these
Yeah.
big call centers get taken down, you're the one who's going to be there. So you know
Okay.
you're good. You know you document, you've got your stuff, you're calling people, you're not doing it. When somebody says, "Oh, Brian, you're in Florida, you suck," you can go, "Not me. Don't take it. Duck, water on a duck's back. It's not you." And then be
It's
part of
just a
this.
public perception. That's really what
It
I
is.
care about.
But
Because
your clients is
CMS
what's going
paints
to be
with a
your
broad
public
brush.
perception.
I
I mean, I
got
got
Christina.
some
I'm on the
good.
Medicare side too, so
Yep.
they go broad. All
We
right.
do.
Thank you, Chris.
You're welcome.
Yeah, Christina, I think what he is trying to say is that the perception of the agents all in general is really a problem. So my question is this: I know there's a lot of organizations. There's HAFA, there is NABIP, but I can't seem to find one that's very much concerned about the agent reputation at all. Because right now, good agents, whether you like it or not, are suffering from the bad agents. And like the other ones here, I'm also on Medicare, and rules are being implemented because of what bad agents are doing. And when there's more rules, it increases the expenses of our businesses. So that's the reason why a lot just have to leave this business. But I guess my point is, it is a big problem. I know we were trying to do things, but it doesn't seem like that there is an organization or a movement for the agents to help with all our reputation. We all look bad.
I
That's
don't
how
want
I
them to.
feel. Mhm.
Kitschy, I don't want them to. Because you know
Yes.
what? That means the big call centers will be lumped into all agents are good. I don't want them to be. I am my agent. Me, my company, helping with nonprofits. The world has changed. I read a lot of benefits things because I love employee benefits and I like trying to help small businesses. Do you know millennials want to know what your political affiliation is? Baby boomers did not. Gen Z coming out into the workforce wants to know, who are you contributing to for nonprofits in your community? You have to build your own reputation in your community. Now, if you're not involved in your community and you're trying to sell to 14 different states, it's going to be harder. But if you are in your community, I mean, my agency's been here for 10 years, and we have had people that we have lost that were mad and talk bad about us. I absolutely know that. Some probably for valid reasons, some not. But we still have a reputation because we continually try to do our best. So I don't want those big companies trying to say that, because then they lump those in. I want them to start trying to get CMS to stop lumping us in. And the only way that's going to happen is if us as individuals show how we're helping our consumers. So I sent them 10 pages when there was a CMS was asking. I sent 10 pages of customer referrals to our company, because they need to see that we are helping individuals. So Donna, you had your hand up. What's your question?
Okay, so so you're saying, so we as agents can report these bad characters to CMS.
Absolutely.
Okay. And they will listen to us as agents, because my experience in the past with Medicare has been they won't listen unless the client calls in, and the client's always, they're never going to call in. Once in a while you get one.
Yes.
So, but you're saying CMS will listen to us?
Yes, because they want to hear the multiple names, the person who keeps getting repeated. They're making a list. If you can get the consumer to agree, even just like, hey, can I write this up and have you sign it? Most of them will say yes. They're a little afraid, especially if you're in the Midwest. Midwest nice. Nobody likes to say anything bad about each other. They just walk away. If you're in the East Coast, I would think that's a little bit better. East Coast are like in your face, at least in New York, right? So yes, if you can get the consumer to even write a letter, that helps. you can report them to the federal marketplace. And HAFA is taking a list as well. So they've got ways of, you know, and I can put that in when I send stuff out. They're trying to get these bad apples. It's just, I know it's frustrating because you're like, wait a minute, you know, I have one in my state who has been reported by 2 different insurance companies to the state, and he's still, and to the CMS, and I reported him and he's still on there. So it is frustrating, but again, it's happening. It's just,
It happens a lot because even over there, I had like 500 pages of spreadsheets of allegations on agents that had never been addressed. They just go from different platforms
right.
and keep you rolling.
Yeah. So it's happening. It's just, I think it's gonna, to me, I feel like it's gonna be suddenly one day, there's gonna be like this massive cleaning of the closet. So, a
Carriers
couple,
too, right?
what, Brian?
Report to the carriers too.
Yes, report to the carrier, you know, report to the carrier, your state, and the federal marketplace. The federal is gonna be the slowest, but they're the heaviest. All right, they have a, you know, a very long memory.
It's funny
So-
because as you were saying, like, I'm terrified to do one itty bitty thing wrong with good faith and get terminated for cause or something like that. Whereas these yahoos just
They
don't
don't
care,
seem to
do
care.
whatever they.
Yeah, but that's
do
because
not-
they don't care. But it'll
and don't
get up
suffer
to
any
them.
consequences. It's amazing.
So real quick, here's the best practices for protecting the PII. So we don't have HIPAA because we don't have their health stuff, but we have the personal identifiable information, which is what PII stands for. So you can get it in person. So that's most of ours are in person. So we have intake forms that are paper, and we lock them every night. They're in a filing cabinet. We also have them on our platform, CRM platform, electronic. Don't forward people's with their personal, you know, you keep them, their information electronically. That's in the CRMs, but don't be sending all of that information electronically where it should not go. Paper, make sure all the paper's done. I mean, those are your consent forms that you're trying to keep safe. So you can't just have a Gmail, you know, Hotmail account. You know, we have a Microsoft that's locked, and if we write the word encrypt or encrypted in the subject line, it instantly locks things down. So just make sure that you are as locked down as you can be. It's gonna happen. I mean, the largest pharmaceutical company in the world just got breached, you know, and you know they've got a whole team of people trying to keep them. It's not so much a matter of if, it's when. I try to keep as little on my computer as possible. It's all in the cloud, either with Microsoft or my CRM. Now, if you can get your consumer during open enrollment to click on the renewal button, which is what I try very hard. I send them all the renewal buttons and I say, if you can just help me out and you can update your application, I will help you pick the plan. You don't even have to pick your own plan, just do the application. Well, then they're reading the attestations themselves and they're saying, yes, I agree, I understand, and they sign their name. If they're not going to do that, if you're going to do it for them for whatever reason, then you have to have them sign those attestations. We have an electronic form that we send out every year. I always read it whenever that's been, I mean, to me, I would say, all right, I'm going to read this. This is the small print between you and the government on this application. Here's your contract. So I've always been reading the attestations. We never guess at an income. I don't auto renew people. I don't, you know, automatically do it. I let the system automatically renew them. And then we even send out a document to them. So that I'm giving them that information every single time. Even if they auto renew, even if they go into the marketplace tax credit, just confirming that they understand again, that's just how I do it. And my whole team does it. I am working with the 2 different companies I met to see if there's a way to streamline that legally. So this is some of the things that we're trying to think, because it is a system that's hard to sustain new growth once you've reached a limit. How much time in the day do you have between November 1st and December 15th? This woman had 900 individual clients on the marketplace, and I was stupid. I'm not sure how I did it. And I talked to them. Sometimes there were appointments. It was emails. It was documents. Every single one of those 900. Because I care. I want them to be in the right plan. But I can't. It's not sustainable. I mean, I couldn't take any more new growth. No, I ended up building an agency because of that unsustainability. But even my agents, eventually they're going to have 600, 700, 800 clients. Now what do I do? How do I sustain this growth? So I'm trying to work with some of the people that are way smarter than me on compliance and fiduciary stuff on how we can maybe streamline this and still be ethical, still be taking care of our clients, still being, you know, the customer, you know, people first. If our clients are first, you know, if I can prove that I'm trying to do it for the betterment of my clients, but also I need to have a living. I mean, you know, you may have 900, but I would lose some. So I need to gain some to maintain where I'm at, you know. So I am, if I come up with an answer from them, I will, believe me, I will share it with you. But the attestations you have to get every year, however you get them, whether it's your phone call and you're like, hey, I need to read these attestations before I finish this enrollment. I know you wanted me to just do it. I mostly got the application done, but let me read this. If that's what you want to do, fine. We send out a text message, they click on the link and they sign it. If it's an in-person, however you want to do, you need to show that you re-explain to them or that they understand how those tax credits work.
Is this process that you just talked about with the during open enrollment, you have the consumer update the application and do the attestations and all that, is that whole process on your oh my gosh, your
During open
whatever you
enrollment?
gave me, no, whatever you sold us last year.
Oh, on the class?
Yeah,
Yeah, so if you buy my class, yes, those forms are in there.
that's all in there. Okay, good. Thanks.
Yep. All right, so somebody said, would you have to pay all the tax credit back or us at the max? I think that was in reference to when I was saying, you know, they get to choose, you know, stay with the employer or go back and forth or whatever. They would pay, you pay all the tax credit back. Just get into the habit of saying all the tax credit. The math on if they're under 400%, it may not be all. Who cares? If they're prepared to pay for all of it and they only have to pay some of it, great. This is how you quote life insurance. You always assume that they are a little bit more on the bad side. If they turn out to be healthy and they get the cheap rate, awesome. So remember, no surprises. So always say you're going to pay it all back. And if you had $300 of tax credit, $300 times 9 months, that's how much you used it. Just tell them all of it. If it's less, great. You don't want to tell them it's going to be less and they made more than 400%, which means they have to pay it all back. I see a couple of people saying you would like my consent form, so I will put that on there. I also do it all electronically. So I've mentioned Form Doctor in the past, formdoctor.com. I love them. We get much better results from texting, but we can also email it to them. We can send them the link where they can sign these consent forms. And I kept doing it. I kept promoting them so much that a lot of people said they heard about them from me. So there is a coupon for 10% off if you say Chris George. So they even have some forms that we created that are already there. So if you really are looking, and it's a relatively inexpensive. What if someone flips them and we need new consent? You don't really need new consent if somebody flipped them without their consent. Now I had somebody, right? So I called her up going, hey, I see you have a new agent. Did you mean that? And they're like, no, I never gave consent. Okay, so you still want me to be your agent? Absolutely. Well, there you go. There's your consent. But you can't just switch them because they do sometimes go to other agents. I mean, it does happen. But you have to get permission before you start touching it again. Somebody else's name's on there before you start doing it. If they say I never gave any consent, now I don't know what that means, but believe it or not, they sign my consent form. They sign Rosalind's consent form. Rosalind's doesn't override mine. There's now 2 consent forms out there. You can only reverse consent by however you tell them. So in that consent form from CMS, you have to tell them how to rescind consent. By email, by phone, by letter, you have to say that how you're going to take consent. So then if they are like, no, I never gave this person consent. All right, let's contact them. And they're like, yeah, you did. You clicked a button. All right, email that person and say I'm rescinding consent. But again, don't touch their stuff without their permission. I mean, it's something we learned as kids, right? Don't touch without permission. So yes.
How do you see, outside of looking at like, what's it called? Health Sherpa, if you're the agent of record that's actually getting credit for the policy effectuating, because it kind of happened to a lot of my agents. You know,
Right.
they start signing up clients in the beginning of open enrollment, and then about time the end of open enrollment, those policy for the plans that didn't have premium, they done talked to maybe 5-6 different agents, and
Right.
it's a couple different. So are you contacting CMS to make sure that you're the agent of record? I mean,
No, it's because it's going to be one of two ways. One, it's on Health Sherpa, right, at the end of open enrollment, and then at your carrier. So CMS is not going to override healthcare.gov to go to the carrier. So I think you want to look, as soon as you're enrolling people, you should see them in your carrier's portal within 2 weeks.
Right.
So check there first. Unfortunately, I mean, for me, I didn't have that much, but we had some that we lost. So, you know, now we're in the habit on December 31st. All right, who on New Year's Eve is going to go through and make sure nothing's been changed? I hope that's not the wave of the future, but it might be. And you're going to go because it's midnight on 12/31, you know. But the best way you can protect yourself is to protect your clients. Informed clients, telling them don't give consent, don't click on a coupon, don't look for a quote. If you see something that seems better than what I offered you, let me know. I would be happy to give you something better. And that's, again, goes back to the community. The more referrals you get, the more, hey, talk to, you know, John, talk to Matt, man. Brian's got you. He's my agent. Rosalind, she's awesome. Mindy, she's great. You're never going to have them switch most of the time because there's already somebody they trust who tells them that they trust you. So you build that trust. So inform your clients, you know, if it looks too good to be true, it probably is. But if you're curious, let me know because I would love to find something better. I'm not perfect. Maybe I missed something. I will try critiquing it if you want. I'll send you guys my link. You can, you click on the link, it'll take you right to my consent form. In fact, I can show you, I can send you the link. That's actually the intake form with the consent that's just attached. So you can see the whole thing. Marshall says, HAFA is huge with agent reputation. They have conversations with CMS weekly and work on advisor panels and they fight that stigma. So they're trying very hard to get CMS because really it's CMS. CMS is the one we have to get them to understand. Stop lumping independent agents in with the large call centers. Just stop it. We're totally different. The whole scope of appointment thing, I'm so glad I'm not a Medicare agent, where we have clients in our office because they walked in and we have to have proof on a scope of appointment before they come in, before we can help them. This is
back
ridiculous.
in 48 hours.
Yes, it's ridiculous, right? Sorry, I know you just walked in. You clearly want me to help you, but no, just some dumb stuff. So if they could start getting out of that mindset. If CMS could do one thing, if they could just do one, that would be my biggest wish. Independent agents are different than the call centers. The things call centers do, we don't even have time. We don't have the time, money, energy, or effort or care to do that. We're just trying to take care of the individual consumers. We're not trying to have 10,000 clients. So if they can get that, yeah, so to combat being lumped in with the bad agents, be visible, create different social media accounts, Facebook, Google Business, LinkedIn, and the paid ads is really a big deal. I know it's a quick fix. You can maybe get a bunch of leads and maybe some of them will turn into long-term, but your local grassroots being there is going to help you not lose clients. I'm fortunate enough to have started at the beginning and we just became known as the place before these ads came out. But if your hometown people know you and you can work in different states and those people can get to know you. And again, reputation, referrals are best. Asked if we need to read the attestations in order or we can prep them ahead of time. I read it and then I explain what it means. Some of the worst language, but the first appointment's the most important. These are the things you have to have. These are the questions, or these are the things you need to understand, agree or disagree on. And I explain them into great detail my first appointment so that when they see them the next years, they're not asking me. But yes, I don't think it matters in what order, as long as they understand that what's happening. Brian, text is king. Oh, you use my form from Form Doctors. So yeah, I mean, texting is the wave of the future. It just is. I don't know how many of you are like, yay, my phone is ringing, I'm so excited. Or do you go, oh, can they just text me? So texting is a really great form. So thanks, everybody. We kind of went over, and I hope to see you. Send me emails or questions for my May 16th one, and next week, kind of best practices, which we talked a little bit about today. And I hope you have a great rest of the week. Just remember, CMS is not trying out. They're not actually trying to get us. They're not out to get us. They're actually trying to get rid of the bad apples, but they're not actually thinking about the agents. Which seems a little weird, right? They're a little bit too much consumer focused and aren't asking people in the real world that are trying to help the consumers. So get involved. Heck, get on those NABIB panels, join HAFA. I mean, you're going to have more insight and more influence. Apologize for the glitch. Hopefully it's on the whole YouTube thing. I'm expecting my internet to go down any moment now. So thank you all for joining, and I appreciate you all very much.